But we start here. President Joe Biden spoke Friday at one of the sites where 80 years ago, American troops turned the tides of World War II and helped secure victory for the Allied forces. U.S. Army Rangers scaled the cliffs of Pointe du Hoc, overlooking Omaha Beach on D-Day. The mission to take out the Nazi German soldiers stationed there. The site became one of many symbols of the resilience of U.S. forces fighting for democracy. In his speech, President Biden called on the world to heed the lessons of that war and stand against hateful ideologies, just as those soldiers did.
As we gather here today, it's not just to honor those who showed such remarkable bravery on that day, June 6, 1944. It's to listen to the echoes of their voices, to hear them, because they are summoning us, and they're summoning us now. They're not asking us to do their job. They're asking us to do our job, to protect freedom in our time, to defend democracy, to stand up aggression abroad and at home, to be part of something bigger than ourselves.
CBS News correspondent Elaine Cobbe joins me now from Paris. Elaine, Biden's comparisons between the war in Ukraine and World War II seemed especially interesting, given that Russia was one of the Allied forces 80 years ago. So talk to our viewers about why Biden was calling out Putin and why that was so significant.
Lana, the parallels have been drawn throughout what Biden has been saying here. And the president, like many others, have been looking at how the time in 1944, when Europe was at war, when France was under Nazi occupation at the time, and now when Ukraine in Eastern Europe is at war with Russia, with another bigger neighbor. And the parallels can't be ignored. And certainly when he said to that, talking about the U.S. Army Rangers who scaled those 100-foot cliffs, he said, is there any doubt that they would not call on all of us to stand up against Putin's aggression? Now, it is interesting that he named it, that he said it so clearly, because frequently in the past he has referred in more oblique terms, but this was a very clear call out about President Putin, who was not invited to the Normandy ceremonies. Let's not forget, the French organizers said he cannot be invited with what he has done in Ukraine, and in the end, no one from Russia was there.
And President Biden was meeting then instead with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Is there anything you could tell us about what they discussed, Elaine?
President Zelensky asked President Biden to ensure that the U.S. continues to help Ukraine. He said, please continue to save us, just as you helped to save Europe back in World War II. Now, also on the visit, the president announced a new aid package for Ukraine worth $225 million, and that will include aircraft, munitions, and other security equipment to help Ukraine in its continued fight against Russia. Zelensky here also to meet with President Macron and ask for French help and European help as he continues to try to hold back the Russian invasion there.
And Biden's next major international appearance is at the G7 summit next weekend. We learned today that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia is going to join. What's the significance of his attendance?
It's interesting that Italy has decided to open up the attendance to countries that are not usually considered the biggest allies, but Rome said we are, yes, about the group of seven and a group of like-minded nations, but we're not closed off like a fortress. We want to open up to the world. So it seems there's a definite desire to get some other views in there. Turkey's leader Erdogan is also coming, and this is certainly going to open up some interesting conversations. Mohammed bin Salman has already refused to go to the Ukraine conference, and so Ukraine being on the agenda for the G7, that may come up in who is giving what kind of aid can there be. But let's not forget that these other nations who are invited along are there to attend, to meet other leaders, to take part in conversations. But ultimately, the decisions that are made at this meeting in Italy will be by the G7 nations themselves.
All right. Elaine Cobbe in Paris, thank you.